At Volkswagen Lease Summit, car buying's as easy as 1, 2, 3. All our new cars are priced to lease at $199, $299, or $399 a month. Plus, we have rates as low as 1.9% for 60 months and used cars for every budget. We make car buying easy. Get to VWLeaseSummit.com.
So it came down last night in a letter from Kansas Senate President Ty Masterson and Speaker of the House Dan Hawkins. And by the way, Ty Masterson will be here at 9:15. Dan Hawkins will be on with Ray Stevens at 10 o'clock. That when the special session begins here in a couple of weeks, the Kansas legislature will hopefully, if they have their way, talk to the Kansas City Chiefs about potentially coming across the state line. This Scoop and Score Inc. is the group that appears to be behind promoting a Star Bonds plan to lure the Chiefs into Kansas. There's a bevy of lobbyists involved in this operation. Here to talk about that and much more is our friend Patrick Tuohey from the Show Me Institute. Of course, on the other side of the state line, he's here on KCMO. You saw the story last night, Patrick, and what was your reaction?
I guess I wasn't surprised. You know, if you're the Chiefs and people want to send you letters to talk, you're more than happy to listen. If people are holding bags of cash they want to drop on your desk. I guess I just don't understand what the allure is to Kansans. So I think about this both as kind of a policy guy and whether or not this is a good deal for taxpayers anywhere, and part of it as a Jackson County resident. And I'm kind of the mind that if Kansas wants to play the fool and take on this debt and risk, it's better for me. My sales taxes may go down in Jackson County because I don't have to fund this stadium, and the stadium's going to be just as close to me in Jackson County as Truman Sports Complex is now. So it's almost like, sure, take this burden from me as a Jackson Countyan. I just don't understand how it's a benefit at all to Kansas.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. So what we know is there are lobbyists involved. David Kessinger, Matthew Hickman, I believe they both worked for Sam Brownback in his administration. Ron Reichman is a former Speaker of the House. Like, I just can't fathom this is all just about pride for the state of Kansas. And we're going to have the Chiefs in our state, and they're not going to be in Missouri. I can't imagine it's just a pride thing. Can you?
I don't. Look, it may be. It was thought years ago when Brownback was governor that kind of his goal was to just bleed all the industry out of Kansas City, that he wanted to move everything out. You know, Kansas City, a Sporting KC, for example, the Speedway, they really wanted to compete. And I get that a state wants to build its own kind of entertainment infrastructure and build downtowns. I understand that. But this particular project seems to promise so little and present so much risk. And I don't understand, and again, we're at the beginning of this. We may find out over the next few weeks more detail. But I don't understand who has so much to gain in this project that they would be funding this campaign. Is it the builders? Is it the people who own land out there that think this would be a huge payday for them? But certainly there's high risk and very little reward for Kansas taxpayers themselves.
Well, what they will say was with these Star Bonds, the risk they'll claim is lower because the Star Bond doesn't increase taxes. It just takes the additional revenues from whatever this district is, and it goes to paying off the bonds. Are you not buying that?
Well, that would work if it generates enough money. But what I'm reading in the Star and elsewhere says that it cannot generate enough money to pay for the stadium, to pay off the bonds. Kind of the Scoop and Score, frequently asked questions or fact versus myth said that there's no risk to taxpayers because if the stadium doesn't generate enough to pay off those bonds, that the bondholders will just take a haircut and they won't come back to taxpayers. But practically, that's not the way this thing works. If the project fails, Kansas will absolutely feel pressure to chip in to make it up because they don't want to have another failure, another prairie fire on their books. It makes them look bad. And so, again, there is risk to this. There's no such thing as free money. Everyone seems to convince themselves that there is, but there's no deal here that makes this risk-free for taxpayers. And again, we've seen it with Prairie Fire. We've seen it with Zona Rosa on the Missouri side.
How should Missouri react to this news?
I don't know. I mean, it's, again, like you said earlier, it's only been 24 hours, although we talked about this a few weeks ago.
But now it's getting real. Now they're saying, we're actually going to do this. We're going to try to make a move here. Should the Missouri legislature care?
No. Again, I understand there's that pride thing here, but it can't be a race to the bottom. It can't be just another border war where private enterprises play both states against each other and taxpayers wherever end up being the fool. If the Chiefs want to move and if Kansas wants to take up that cost, more power to them. Missourians should understand that, look, there really isn't any economic benefit to having them in Missouri in the first place. If, for the sake of saving us some money, Missourians some money, it wants to move to Kansas and we still have access, again, I don't understand, other than pride, and I get pride, and the Chiefs and the Royals last time around talked about pride, but you have to be able to quantify the benefit, and there is no economic benefit, there is no revenue benefit, there is no jobs benefit, it's just pride, and that's not enough to motivate people to part with billions of dollars.
Jackson County in particular, I mean, we know that legislature, I'm sure, is going to have something to say. What do you think from a local perspective Jackson County residents and the legislature should be thinking and doing right now?
Waiting. I don't think they should get involved in this. I don't think they should, again, feel that they've got to be motivated to counteroffer. I mean, that's how municipalities lose these deals all the time, is they get in this race to the bottom, whether it's Amazon or Google or, it was... forgive me, I'm forgetting the Applebee's in Kansas City that moved back and forth. They offer these subsidies so that they can claim some sort of job creation, but it just doesn't work. And if Kansas wants to play the fool and take on this risk, Jackson County, Missouri ought to be like, we're not going to play this game. Go ahead, make your best offer.
I know you're a Missouri guy, Patrick Tuohey, so you're probably, is it fair to say, not an expert on these star bonds?
That's right. I'm not an expert,
okay.
And over the next few weeks, I'm going to be ramping up and trying to learn as much as I can, but I would recommend people read John Shorman's reporting in the Star this time and a few weeks ago, and he spelled it out nicely.
He did. Okay. So now, when you look at this from a Royals perspective, where are the Royals at in all this right now?
I know. I imagine John Sherman sitting by his phone waiting for it to ring. I mean, this is talk about the value of winning. Talk about the value of being a beloved franchise and an owner that is liked. I mean, this is the value for those guys. I don't know. I don't know if Kansas would want the Royals. It doesn't appear that they've reached out to them. This proposal seems focused solely on the Chiefs. But I think the silence speaks volumes.
Do you think that I mean, if you're the Royals, I know they're talking to the city, what can we do with the city to try to work around some of the issues last time. Have you heard anything about this on this front, where the Royals are at right now, and any discussions with anybody?
No, I haven't. I haven't heard anything new. It seems that after April 2, everybody's just gone back to their corner and they've taken a few shots at each other. I'm sure the Royals would love to represent that they're being courted by Nashville or Overland Park or Kansas anywhere, but I don't think they are. And I think within the year, they're going to come back to Jackson County and want to negotiate something.
How about that? Patrick Tuohey is here with the Show Me Institute on KCMO. So what's interesting to me, and we've talked about this, the way that these deals oftentimes are bipartisan, there's this poll that's out that says many Republicans would be potentially happy with the Chiefs' move across the state line. What does it say that on both sides of the aisle, it's a bipartisan group that is for and against these types of stadium projects?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's one of the things I wanted to point out to your listeners is that whether it's Democrats in Jackson County or Republicans in Kansas, this is not a partisan issue. You get elected to office, and the first thing you want to do is spend taxpayer money on baubles, on amenities, on things like that. You don't want to do the hard work of building your state. You don't want to do the hard work of repairing roads and potholes. You want to get involved in glamorous projects like this. And it's a shame. And certainly Republicans who are more likely to claim that they are the fiscally responsible party should be the first ones to reject stuff like that. But as we're seeing, it's just not the case.
Yeah, it's not. So, all right, we'll be watching this going forward. What do you want to make sure people are thinking, especially Kansans? I mean, usually we're talking about Missouri issues, but what's your message to Kansans this morning, especially since this would not be in a ballot? This is not something they'll get to vote on. It's just going to potentially be done by the legislature.
Yeah, well, keep your hands on your wallet. Look out for risk, and don't believe when anyone tells you that spending $3 billion is risk-free. That's pretty much their argument. Hey, we can spend $3 billion and there's no risk to taxpayers. That you should be as skeptical of that as anything else that government tells you.
Patrick, great work, my friend. Thank you for being here.
It's my pleasure. Take care.
He is Patrick Tuohey with the Show Me Institute on KCMO Talk Radio.
At Volkswagen Lease Summit, car buying's as easy as 1, 2, 3. All our new cars are priced to lease at $199, $299, or $399 a month. Plus, we have rates as low as 1.9% for 60 months and used cars for every budget. We make car buying easy. Get to VWLeaseSummit.com.